they're walking into a trap. Your orders are to deliver a message calling off tomorrow morning's attack. If you fail, it will be a massacre.
Fundamentally, it's a very simple story. Two men have about 8 hours to get from one part of the Western Front in 1917, in the middle of the First World War, to another. If they do it, they will save the lives of 1,600 men, including one of those men's brothers. If they don't, then not only will his brother die, but those other men are likely to be doomed. And in that respect, it's a ticking clock thriller.
Me and George, we went out to France and Belgium. We looked at memorials, museums, some preserved trenches that we actually walked through. I also read a book called The Western Front Diaries, and it's just snippets of soldiers' diaries in this book. And actually my great-granddad was, he had a diary entry in that book, and he talked a little bit about how he went into no man's land and he got shot. He laid out there for 4 days and survived. So I read that book pretty much every day before I walked onto set.
It's been a real privilege working with Sam, to work on something that's so personal to him. I think it's a real privilege, and he said he's not written anything before, but there's obviously this story's kind of bubbled up in him, and it's something that he wanted to get out and to tell.
What I wanted an audience to do was, through the micro of these two men's journeys in real time, just 2 hours of real time, observe to some degree the macro, which is the immensity of the destruction, the vastness of the land, the thousands and thousands, millions of men, the appalling conditions, the staggering amount of waste and destruction, lives lost, and yet always to stick within the footprint of this 2 hours of real time.
There is only one way this ends.
We knew it was going to be one shot, and some of the original challenges in the script were just wrapping your mind around that. When you go to a new scene, how do you get in and out of scenes in an interesting way that doesn't feel double beating? How do you make sure that you don't repeat action? How do you make sure that you tell a cohesive story in a very kind of real-time bubble? So they were all challenges, and they were all like cerebral challenges. You just had to think your way out of a lot of these problems.
All the decisions came from the relationship between the camera and the actor, and that began with me and Roger sitting in a room going, how are we going to shoot this scene?
How do we get to a wide shot? Is that too self-conscious? How do we move around to see the environment? How can we intensify the moment with a camera movement but not make it too ostentatious, if you like, you know? I think it was a balance, because you know, we didn't want to do anything where you're just behind the characters following them all the time, which, you know, scarily that's what maybe your first thought of the story is. Okay, I'm following these two guys and we're just following them behind or in front, and that's it.
If you have a dialogue scene, to state the obvious, what I didn't want, and neither did Roger, and we don't do at any point in the movie, is hinge the camera back and forth between two people speaking dialogue. To me, that you might as well cut. That's not what I wanted. What I wanted was one ribbon, like a snake, moving forward, in which the information that you needed happened to fall in front of where the camera was pointing.
Did you hear that story about Wilco? How he lost his ear?
I'm not in the mood. Keep your eyes on the trees, top of the ridge.
I think for me, the most important theme was the idea of sacrifice, what you do for other people and what you owe other people. And very much involved in that was the concept of family. You could hear in the sort of South Downs in Devon, you could hear the guns in France. You know, it was so close and so intimate. And I think that just fascinates me and saddens me in a way that these people were trapped, you know, an hour from home in hellish conditions. And when they came back home, they had no way to describe what they'd seen to the people.
Roger Deakins, to be able to work with him and say that I've even just met the man is a big deal. Again, what he's done with this film is really beautiful. You know, some of the camera work has just blew my mind. Things I didn't even realise were possible. You know, if you like filmmaking, if you're into seeing films becoming what they are, this film is for that.
If you fail, it will be a massacre. Good luck.